Hello, selectors, and welcome back to the Life Burst Podcast. We're talking about the new virtuals that you can play right now with the Sandaka crossover set. It's coming out right now. So I'm cheating a little bit with this list here. I think this is arguably one of the best Sandaka lists that you could be running. But it is also not really mine. There's not a ton here that's mine. This is actually a GP winning list over in Japan. That I modified slightly because we didn't have access to their assist that they have. It's blue, but it doesn't really change anything. There's no blue in this or anything like that. And it I also decided to put Liz in it to make it a Sandbaka list because I know people are going to be asking for that kind of thing. I think if you were going to pick which is the best Sandbaka centers to run, it's probably Ange. By a long shot. And then there's Toko is pretty good, and I think Ange is pretty good. Sorry, Liz is pretty good. And then the other one I don't think is all that great. I don't like their assist lines all that much, and I also don't like their center all that much. I guess it's doable. I'll probably end up making a video on all four of them, though, regardless, because people are going to be asking about it, I'm sure, because this is a popular team. But I've been testing this, because GP coming up soon. Been testing this for a while. And I thought, rather than make my own version of this, I should just show off the one that exists already in Japan and has been doing fine. And this is the list that got fourth place in one of their GPs. So I'll show it as is. The really important thing to note about Sandbaka as a team is none of their team stuff is all that good. But their Lrigs individually are pretty good. So Ange has a really great center. Basically enters, you invite 2 collab livers, and I'll be giving away if you go and you get those. You can then use them in this deck tech. You pay an any enter you want, and you get rid of one of your collab liver tokens. You target a Signy on the opponent's field to power 12,000 or under, which is pretty much everything. And then you bounce it back to the opponent's hand. Then you have a once per game action ability, which is for 0 enter, this Lrig gains auto. Once per turn when this Lrig attacks, it damages your opponent, unless the opponent pays 4 or the opponent discards a guard. Now, the kind of crappy thing with this is if the opponent discards a guard, it doesn't do any of the guard taxing stuff. So if you have Remember in your deck or any of that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. This is an ability that you can ditch the guard to. And that's not the greatest in this kind of thing, especially in the deck that has Remember or Remember at Home off-brander Remember in it. But it the pay 4, the opponent never has 4. You're doing so much bounce in this deck that the opponent will never ever have 4 enter to pay for this, unless you're playing against specifically a green deck. And there's a green deck, so it's probably not all that great. I think this is a fantastic Lrig. And really, you surround it with things that can support it, you're going to have a good time, even if you're not necessarily playing virtuals. But I think playing virtuals has merit for this, specifically because of this card here, which is Chigusa. Chigusa has the ability to basically, when your Lrig attacks, if there are 3 or more virtual Signy on your field, you can pay white. If you do, that Lrig loses all of its abilities, and you up it, and then you can attack with it again, right? Which is pretty good. It's really good. It means that you can bounce the entire opponent's field, and as long as your Signy remain on the field, you'll be able to double attack with your Ange, which is fantastic. On top of it, it has the ability to pay white, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a virtual Signy from among it, put it into your hand, which is fantastic against basically any deck that you're going to be playing against. Against Aggro, this speeds up the game. Against Controller midrange, this speeds up the game and gives you damage outlet that you would normally have. They have walls, and also gives you the ability to sort of mess with your opponent's discard or whatever resource management they're trying to mess with you. And there's also a certain amount of virtual Signy that you definitely want to have on your Chigusa turns that you're going to attack with. So I think that's the main reason outside of Moonlight that you'd want to be running virtuals. Basically, if you're running a virtuals deck, it's probably going to be some kind of mirror image of this regardless of what center you're running. the fact that you're going to be able to just full on refresh your opponent once per game, no muss, no fuss, right? No Umir clear weirdness, no needing to shove blue in it in order to make ultra superheroes happen. No need to mill yourself to get a number down in order to mill your opponent out. It's just, this is the simplest, easiest way. Basically, a 0 enter refresh the opponent. It's fantastic, and you can time it so that way you are dealing a damage when it's necessary, but more importantly, you're able to refresh your opponent so they don't have graveyard tools for their next turn, which is really, really good. I personally like to surround this type of thing with Toko and Liz. My reason being is Liz, specifically in a virtual deck, has this really great ability to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 white virtual, everything's in here is white. You'll be able to put it in your hand, so it really lets you dig for that Chigusa or the Remember at Home. I should probably actually remember what that card's name is. 1 second. It's over here. Boom. Finana. Finana. Yeah, okay, cool. And it lets you dig for that, as well as just fix your early game hand, which is pretty good. Liz that can get you a guard and also bounce the opponent. Kind of important to be able to bounce something on the opponent's turn. Lets you deal with a lot of their troublesome wall signy that they might be playing out. Then you've got Ange, Toko, which just opens a hole, and then this Toko, which is basically just better Machina Smash in your deck. Add target white signy means anything from your deck, but you use a white to do it, which just means that it's just better and more on color for you. This card's fantastic. It's just been waiting for its time to shine for a while, and I think the time is now. Salvage is just sort of you have to play this piece in order to play the mill piece, but being able to basically get your best virtual cards back out of your trash to replay them is really great. And speaking of which, your best virtual cards are basically Finana, Chigusa, Furin. Furin's a really good one here, where Furin allows you to basically use Furin Slash and it costs 3 less, which you can see we're playing 4 Furin Slash in the deck, or at least that's what the deck designer did. So it's basically necessary for it to function. Furin Slash costing 2 to bounce anything on the opponent's field is really great, especially because of the limits of that 12,000 ability that Ange itself has. That's your backup plan. But then being able to enter charge means that your Ange bounce is free, or sometimes if you have 2 of these on the field, generates you enter. It's really very, very, very strong in that stuff. You're able to basically work around a lot of things that you wouldn't normally be able to work around. The other best card in the deck is probably Kohaku, which is a white enter effect bounce target level 1. Basically, this is the Lancelot of the deck. It's just the Lancelot that also enter starves the opponent. It's really fantastic. You're playing. He decided to play one more version of that kind of thing, which is basically you pay 1 enter, do -5,000, or one enter and pay -3,000. This is not super relevant, but it just does a job that has basically allows you to play multiple versions of the Kohaku. And then Pandora actually has done quite a bit in my testing too. Being able to vanilla something's really good, but more often than not, you're scrying with it, which is weirdly good. You know, like sometimes that type of ability is not super great, but here it ends up being actually pretty strong. So I like Pandora as well. To fill out the deck, we have a bunch of annoying white walls, right? 5,000k. This says that this gets plus 2,000 power, it's 5,000, and then gets Shadow level 1. This also down here makes the rest of your stuff also kind of have a plus ability. This can get up to 7k pretty easily with your deck, depending on if you need a 7k person, but it also just pumps everything a little out of range for like crackback vanishing stuff. Filling it out, like I said, you're also going to be using 4 Furin Slash, 3 Finata, 2 Cayenne, guards, of course. And then these 2 are both defensive Signy. I believe this one gives power, and this one gives shadow. So it's just sort of a toolbox situation that you pull up with salvage, depending on what you need. One's better against aggro, the other one, this one, better against This one's better against aggro. This one's better against mid-range or control, depending, on what kind of thing you're trying to do here. Both those are perfectly fine. That's the deck in a nutshell. It is very aggressive. It's like kind of a better Dash, in my opinion. Dash Hirana was good. This just feels like a straight upgrade to Dash Hirana. I would say this is a very, very good deck to bring to GP, or anything that you want to win with if you're trying to play hard. Not to mention, I know people love virtuals, so this ends up being a pretty good virtual deck that you could play.